Hi all, this is Raul,
And this is Agata.
and this is Sci-why.
Yay!
Well, today's episode will require you to exercise your imagination. Because this far in Sci-why we have been speaking about things that are pretty literal, like history or some experiments that you can very easily, figure out how they were done. But today we are transcending into the world of the imagination. Okay?
Which is why we are starting recording it quite early, while my brain is still operating good enough to at least attempt to understand.
It will not
the
be
topic.
that hard, and I think like the first half will be actually pretty simple. So let's start with: do you ever imagine something that you would have changed about yourself, or like something that you wanted to have made in a different way in the past, or like
Like, what if?
some what if, or like I wish I was, I don't know, blonde or something like that.
I wish I was skinny.
Well, maybe. If you wish, for example, to be skinnier or to be more sporty.
I wish I was sporty.
Okay, so if you wish you were sporty,
Life would be much easier, huh?
Yeah, well, I can tell you that there is at least one universe where you are skinny and sporty.
How do we get to that universe?
How we get that is a very good question, because of course you would like to be like, here I am, boom, hello,
Okay,
However,
now that I'm thinking, I'm not sure.
Well, that's up to you.
Well, I would like to have a choice.
Mm-hmm. Well, as I said, there is a universe where you do have a choice, or
Cool.
that at least you made different choices. Okay, this is important because it's been proven that this universe exists. Sadly, this is of little help because you are not there. You are right here and right now stuck with the person that you are, right?
Okay. I will try to keep my mind wide open
Mm-hmm.
because this far it doesn't sound like something I'm fan of, which is like, like once there was a universe where this and that happened, but like no one can prove it, and like basically just trust me, bro.
Well,
So I will try, but I
agreed.
am a bit of a skeptic.
Well, you know that I put the sources in every episode, so you don't have to trust me, bro. You can check by yourself.
Yeah, but
However,
those
a great
sources
deal,
are
a great
trust me,
deal
bro.
of this episode will be trust me, bro.
Okay.
Before we get there, I would like to make a comment on language. When we are going to talk from now on of a dimension means the freedom of a system, the degree of freedom of a system. Okay? It is a word that scientists and mostly mathematicians use to mean how many possibilities of change a system has. Alright?
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, let's say that you are buying paper.
Mm-hmm.
One dimension of the paper would be the size.
Okay.
So it's the degree of freedom. So it's something that you can change in this system. Okay? For
That's
example.
not what I would think of
So a
when
dimension.
talking about dimensions, but okay.
No, a dimension in this topic that we are going to talk about, a dimension is the degree of freedom of the universe or of a certain system. Okay, so then it is thought that our world has 10 dimensions, meaning 10 possible universes that could occur, meaning that you have 10 possible variables to change. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So,
I am attempting to understand, so probably you will hear a lot of uncertain mm-hmm.
So, basically, what is the 10th dimension? Saying that our universe has 10 dimensions, it sounds pretty arbitrary, no? Like, why 10 and not 7 or 12? The 10th dimension is the dimension that holds all possible universes together. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
We will get there step by step. We will jump from one dimension to the other, and I will prove you how these 10 dimensions actually exist. Okay?
Okay.
But before we get there, it is important to know that there are 10 dimensions, because in the 10th dimension, which is the highest universe possible, it is thought that this is part of the string theory, which is a much more complicated topic in physics, but basically in string theory, it is said that everything in the universe is made of the same things, the same atomic particles called strings, that they vibrate in different frequencies, and it is this vibration that creates the subatomic particles that build our world like the pieces of Lego. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So, we cannot perceive this vibration, we can only perceive the consequences of these vibrations in our dimension, which is the third dimension. Okay? We will get there. So, let's start from the very beginning. Okay? The very beginning is the dimension 0, obviously. The dimension 0 is something that has no depth, no height, and no length. Okay? You can imagine it as a point in a piece of paper.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So imagine that you have a sheet of paper, and then you just randomly take a marker and draw a point in it. A point has no dimension because it's not long or deep or high. It's just a point is a concept that we use to mark a certain place in space.
Mm-hmm. Okay. This far I understand.
This far is pretty easy.
Mm-hmm.
So now that we have one point, we can of course draw as many points as you want to. So we can draw a second point, right? If now we link these 2 points with a line, we have created the first dimension, which is length.
Okay.
So we can measure the distance between 2 points. That is one dimension. Okay? Now, jumping to the second dimension, we can draw a second line that is linking another 2 points, and this second line will cross the first one. Okay? Now, we have created an object that has length and height. In the same way, like a card on a deck of cards that has a certain dimension, like a piece of paper has a certain dimension because it has height and length, but it has no depth. It's completely flat. Okay? These two magnitudes, length and height, they are together, they are linked, because otherwise we would just have created 2 parallel lines that will never cross, right? So these 2 dimensions are crossed. And of course, we can see the objects in our third dimension, we can see the objects that come from the previous dimensions. That is why we understand objects that are flat but have no depth. And we understand the objects in the third dimension, which are the objects that we draw another line and we give them depth. Like a cube, for example.
Okay, how does all of that connect with movies? 2D, 3D, 4D?
Yeah, that is in our world, we can only perceive the objects that come from the lower dimensions. So for us, everything in the second dimension is like a photography.
So 2D movies.
2D, yeah, like a 2D, like an image that you project on a screen. That is a 2D object. Okay? Now, the third dimension is very easy to imagine because it's the dimension that we live in. It's a dimension that has depth, that objects exist in a certain space, and this space that objects occupy cannot be occupied by other objects. Alright? So I have my laptop right here, and the place where my laptop is, nothing else can be unless I remove my laptop and I put something else. Okay? So the third dimension is very easy.
Unless there's a ghost in the house and...
There's some ghost in the house.
Can float right through your laptop.
So the third dimension is very easy to imagine because it's the world that we live in. Okay? But there is another way to imagine the third dimension, which is taking an object from the second dimension and folding it. So let's say that you have a sheet of paper, okay, and then you fold it so the ends touch each other,
Okay.
and you have created like a cylinder, no?
Like
a
a
tube.
tube.
Exactly. So now you have created from a 2-dimension object, you have folded it into the superior dimension.
Okay.
Okay? So a 2-dimension object, you have turned it into a 3-dimension object, right? So this far is pretty easy.
This far
right?
I understand, yes. My comprehension
And
can
this
reach
is-
to the actual real world.
And this is important to understand because you can only fold dimensions you can only fold lower dimensions into upper dimensions. All right? You cannot do it the other way around.
Well, unless you take a human and then you will take this I don't know how it's called, this machine to flatten things, and then you like roll on the human, and then the human will be flat like a sheet of paper.
Mm-hmm.
That's
This
how I
got
see it.
really dark very quickly.
Okay, it doesn't have to be human, it can be, I don't know,
It can be anything.
a pillow.
But this is a very good point because this proves that different dimensions exist at the same time. This also happens when you are observing from a higher dimension objects that are in a lower dimension and that they are really, really, really small. For example, imagine that you are a bug, an insect. Okay? And you, as an insect, you are very, very small. And you are walking a piece of paper. Okay? For you, this piece of paper is completely flat. However, if I now take this piece of paper, a 2-dimension object, I fold it into the 3-dimension, creating a tube. And then you, as an insect, will walk this tube, this piece of paper folded. For you, it will still be flat, even though you are actually walking a 3-dimensional object. So when you start walking, you will describe a circle and end up in the same place that you started. And you are not aware that you did a circle. For you, you were only walking straight in the second dimension. So this means that objects that are really huge, really, really big, can appear as belonging to lower dimensions, even though they are from higher dimensions. And this same thing happens when you are walking in this planet. This planet apparently is flat, but it's actually round.
No, the Earth is flat. I think we already agreed on that.
And in the edge, there is a dragon that will not let you go further.
Yes.
Okay.
No, just the water will drip down to the...
Like a huge waterfall.
To the cosmos, yeah.
Nice. So, now let's jump to the 4th dimension. Everyone knows the 4th dimension, which is given by time.
Okay.
Okay? Yeah. Okay. So, now that we have our 3-dimensional objects, that are all the objects that are here in this world, including you and me, now, what do we need to create a 4-dimensional world is time. Is how long these objects exist in our world, okay? So, there is a way to imagine time that is pretty cool and quite also a little complicated, like all cool things. Time would be the line that you draw between objects in the 3rd dimension. Remember when, to jump to the 2nd dimension, we draw a line? Or to jump from the 0 dimension, we jump... To jump from the 0 dimension to the 1st dimension, we draw a line between 2 points, right? And then we jump from 0 to 1, okay? So now we can jump from 3 to 4 by taking an object in the 3 dimension and the same object later in time in the 3 dimension and draw a line between them.
So
that line is time.
If we take a fruit, let's say a banana, when it's ripe, and then when it's rotting, and then that line would be time.
And the line that will link these 2 bananas will be time. So this is how we jump from the 3rd dimension to the 4th dimension, by drawing a line, by considering objects in the lower dimension as one single point and drawing a line between them. Okay?
But in reality, it would be like point. Like
that's the thing here, and that is a very good point actually. Because in our 3D world, we only see moments in time. We don't see time as a continuous thing. We only see like cross sections of time. Now, let's go back to the previous dimension. Let's say that you have a football. Okay? For you, it's a sphere. Okay? Because you understand that our world has depth. But for someone that lives in the second dimension, that ball will be a circle, will be completely flat. Okay? So for us, time works in the same way. People from the previous dimension can only see cross sections of objects from the superior dimension. So in the same way that this ball, for a person in the second dimension, would look flat like a circle, for us, time is only seen as slices. Okay? While if you were living in the fourth dimension, you would be seeing time continuous. So you would look pretty weird, because your life would look like a very long snake with your embryo in one end and your death in the other. Okay? And then you would be like stretched.
Okay.
You understand?
Yeah, but like...
However, since we are living here and we cannot perceive time because time is already an object from the superior dimension, we only see time flattened in cross sections.
Okay.
Meaning, like, we only perceive times
as what is right now.
As it what is happening right now. We cannot see what happened already or what is going to happen. We only see time as in cut, you know, like photograms in a movie. Okay?
The fifth dimension will probably totally get me.
The fifth dimension. Now this far is pretty easy to understand. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, now it's even possible to imagine. All right. However, now we are
not even in the like half.
Now we are reaching the half of the universe. All right. So now in the fifth dimension, you can imagine all this as an elevator. Okay. And we started in the ground floor, in the 0 dimension, and we are going all the way up. Okay. So now in the fifth dimension, what we have is all the possible timelines that are created. So, you know when someone expected something from you and then they were surprised because you did something totally different. Like when my parents realized that I failed maths and they were like, how is it possible? By the way, both my parents are mathematicians, so for them, me failing maths was a big shock. So, and I did something completely different that they didn't expect. That's because I have a choice. Not that I chose to fail maths, you know, but it just happened because it was, you know, not something that they expected. Meaning that you can do whatever you want with your life because you constantly have choices. Now, this works for you, and it works for me, and it works for everyone else in the world. So your choices will shape my choices, right? So we are constantly...
I hope that my choices will shape yours.
So we are constantly influencing each other through our choices. All right? Therefore, we are constantly creating a new timeline. Now, remember in the fourth dimension when I told you...
Like net of...
Yeah, exactly. Like a network.
What could happen.
Okay? Your network is your net worth. Anyway. Remember when in the fourth dimension I told you that your life, if you could see it in the fourth dimension, would look like a very long snake stretched from your birth to your death, right? Now, if you were in the fifth dimension, this snake that you are stretched into would constantly be changing due to your choices.
Okay.
Because every choice that you make, from, I don't know, having coffee in the morning or starting a podcast, they will constantly be shaping your future, right? Maybe, let's say, because we started a podcast, our follower from Philippines, by the way, hello, follower from Philippines, our follower from Philippines will be like, maybe I should visit Poland. Do you know what I mean? A choice that maybe that person wouldn't have considered if they didn't listen to our podcast.
Or maybe because we started a podcast, we're going to be super famous and rich, and then we're going to buy a Lamborghini, and then we're going to go really fast and then hit a tree and die.
Mm-hmm. For example, that is not likely because you don't know how to drive.
I said we.
Ah.
You know how to drive.
Well, you know that Cardi B has like 7 cars, but she doesn't have a driving license.
I mean...
So, Cardi B, cardiovascular bronchitis.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of Cardi B, but she's quite rich and quite famous, and I don't think there is any podcaster anywhere that is that famous and that rich.
Well,
so
if any famous podcaster wants to do a shootout of us, I would be happy about it. However, okay, whatever. It's not my mother tongue. English difficult, so it's not my mother tongue. However, there is a word.
It's your father tongue? It's my aunt's tongue.
So there is a world where Cardi B never did a striptease and never got to be famous, alright? So maybe there is a world where Cardi B actually went to college and now is president, okay? Because she shaped her future through her choices, right?
Or choices of others.
Yeah, of course, or choices of others. For example, like, you can have the same thing with plenty of famous people that just got famous because of sheer luck. Because like them, there are 1,000 others.
Or
you know?
that your mother decided to not have an abortion and you were born. Or your mother have decided to move to US of A from, I don't know, from Thailand. So you get more opportunities in there.
And then, if you could see all these possibilities,
you would get a headache.
Yeah, no, for sure. But you would be seeing them because you are a person that lives in the 5th dimension. All right. So this, all these possibilities would present to you at once. Okay, and you would be able to actually see them. All right. Now, remember when we folded a 2D object into a 3D object? So in the same way, you can consider all these possibilities as one single point in the 4th dimension and link it with a line to another point in the 4th dimension, creating the 5th dimension, right? So you can fold all objects from the lower dimensions through the superior dimension, all right? So now we can jump.
Let's assume that I understand what you mean.
Now we can jump to the 6th dimension. If you are not sure to understand, do not give up, because in the end, you will understand everything. And for sure, plenty of you who are listening to us think that Christopher Nolan is a genius. So if you could sit for almost 3 hours through a Christopher Nolan movie, you can sit for 30 minutes with us, okay? So come on, humor me, Valkyrie. So in the 6th dimension, would show you all the possible paths that your life could have gone to, and the events that make you become who you are now would exist as moments in time in the 6th dimension, meaning that you could not only see all these possible futures at the same time, but actually visit them because they exist together. Okay, they exist at the same time. Now imagine that you want to visit yourself from the past. Okay, since you are an object that exists in a superior dimension, you can naturally visit all the lower dimensions. In the same way that you, as a 3D object, can visit objects in the 2nd, 1st, and 0 dimension, right? So if you exist in the 6th dimension, you could visit yourself in the past, because for you time would be another dimension that you can just walk to. Okay. So you could instantly fold the 6th dimension through the 5th dimension to go to the 4th dimension. All right, and then for you it would be like snap. It would be like you jump from one moment in time to another. Okay, because all these possibilities are existing at the same time, and they present to you together, right? And it works for you, and it works for everyone else, of course. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I really hope. I mean, I'm glad that I'm in this dimension, because if I were in the
all these,
sixth dimension, that would be confusing.
Yeah, and all this is starting to be a little confusing. So
yeah, like, I mean,
so
I can, like, I get it, but that could not be something that a person lives through. You know? Like,
yeah, that because we are objects in the 3 dimension that can only experience the 4th dimension through its consequences, which are time. Okay. Now, if we jump to the 7th dimension, I want you to remember how in the 4th dimension we take 3D objects and we consider them as a point. Okay? And then we take another 3D object and consider it as a point and make a line between them, therefore creating the 4th dimension. Okay? Now, you can apply this to any 3D object, so you can treat the whole existence of the past world, the whole universe that existed in the past, as one single point, and now treat the whole world as it is now as another point, and draw a line between them. Okay, these 2 worlds would have all the possibilities that could ever exist, and you consider them as one single point. Okay, in the past and in the present. So, in this 7th dimension, what we would have are all possible worlds that could have ever existed from the beginning of time, from the Big Bang, till the future. So all the possibilities that exist in the 6th dimension, they become a single point in the 7th dimension. Okay? Because you are jumping to the next level. And you can draw a line between them in the same way that you did it in the 3 dimension to jump to the 4th dimension. Right?
But what does it give you?
It gives you everything that can ever exist, which is infinity. So each point in the 7th dimension is what we consider as infinity. Infinity holds everything, meaning not only your life and my life, your parents and your cousins and the people that you went to school with, your doctor when you were 4 years old, everything that you can imagine, but it also holds the Middle Ages and the dinosaurs, and it also holds Jeff Bezos, and everything in the world is considered as one single point in the 7th dimension, creating what we consider as infinity. But even the concept of infinity is only in the 7th dimension that we find it. We still have another 3 dimensions to go to. So,
and I'm already lost.
What else is there?
Can I stop there? Can I just stay in
just like, please, this is my stop.
Like, I can stay in the 4th dimension. Okay? That's,
now,
something that I know. I know how to deal with that.
Now, if we are going to imagine the 8th dimension, we have to first consider that the concept of infinity only works in the 7th dimension if we consider our world as it is right now. Okay? So, with the Big Bang in one end, and all the possible futures in the other end, in the same way, like from one single seed, a whole tree with different branches grow. Alright? So our seed will be the Big Bang, which is the way that our universe was created. And then all the possible futures are the different branches of this tree that grew from the seed. Okay? You get the image?
Yeah.
So now this huge tree is your universe. And that is the infinity, because there is nothing else outside of those branches. This is how our universe was, influenced through your choices, through time, and creating all these dimensions. And then that tree would be one single point containing infinity of our universe. Alright? Now, what if we are not grown from this particular seed, but our world started from a different seed?
Okay.
Imagine our world is not an oak. Our world started from a pine. Okay? So then we will have 2 different trees, meaning that we will have 2 different worlds, right? So our Big Bang created our universe with the laws that control our universe as they are. What if our universe actually started in a different way, with a different Big Bang that created different chemical elements and different laws of nature? So then we will have a different universe.
We would have Avatar.
We'll have what?
Avatar.
What is Avatar?
The movie.
Ah, the movie from Avatar. Okay.
Like, the blue guys running around.
Yeah. That was, it was totally Pocahontas, by the way. Yeah. That
But
movie,
blue.
like, what the fuck with that movie? They just came, dropped that movie, never did a sequel. No one can remember a single line of dialogue on that movie. So, yeah. Now, then we will have these two different trees. Let's use the metaphor of the tree that I just made up on the go. But I think you understand, no? Okay. So now.
So we have the regular universe tree and then Avatar universe tree.
Exactly. So then we consider
image.
We consider our world, this tree that we grow, as one single point, and then we consider the Avatar tree as one single point, and we can draw a line between them.
Okay.
Because why not? Who's going to stop you?
So we can jump to another infinite universe.
Exactly. So we will have our universe with all the
like
possibilities.
They did in Avatar.
We have our universe with all the possibilities. And then what if we have just a different universe that started from different initial conditions, and it would also have all the possible infinite futures that can be created. So then these two would be different. We can draw a line between them through the 9th dimension. Okay? So this is how infinity only starts in the 7th dimension, but it doesn't stop there. Okay? Everything is because we change the initial conditions of our universe. Okay? Which we don't know how they are. But actually we think that the cosmic radiation that our antennas are getting, they are just the echo of a previous universe that existed before our Big Bang. Okay? So, to imagine how these conditions could change, you have to understand that our world is expanding. Our universe is constantly growing and constantly expanding. The galaxies are getting far and far away from each other. Okay? And then at some point, this, let's say this momentum that started because the universe exploded, then at some point this momentum is going to stop. And then they will come back together. Okay?
So
this is not something that you have to worry about, because you and I are not going to be here to see it.
Damn,
but at some point the galaxies will stop stretching and will, get like stuck, and then they will again come back together because of the gravitational force. So then when they all come back together, they will collide
and do another bang
and create one singularity, and then it will explode again and create another Big Bang with different conditions.
Avatar.
Okay? Like Avatar. Okay, let's call it Avatar. No? So, since you can create this line between these two different worlds...
Maybe it will be like Lord of the Rings.
I would like that. But anyway, since you can create...
I would be such a hobbit.
You would be totally a hobbit. Matko, smoking your pipe weed.
Yeah, just
planting the garden, digging the potatoes.
Without shoes and just living, chilling in Cabran, basically.
Exactly.
Or maybe it would be the dwarf.
The dwarf?
For the attitude.
I could be the dwarf, yeah.
Okay,
probably.
we're getting...
Anyway, so now we have created these two different universes, right? Linked through a line in the 9th dimension, okay? These 2 points contain our world as it is now and a different world, right? And they both contain the infinity of 2 different universes, okay? Now, what if we consider all the possible initial conditions that could create an infinite number of universes with infinite possibilities each, okay? So, let's say that we can recreate infinite different conditions for the different Big Bang to create different universes. And then we consider all these possible universes that can be created as one single point. Okay? It's pretty recurrent because it's just a method. Okay? So then we consider all the possible universes that can be created as one single point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? You could then jump from one universe to another, and different universes will have different laws and different behavior. And you can do that by folding the 8th dimension through the 9th dimension. Okay? So then you would like jump from one place to another, and you would disappear from existence in one side and continue your existence in another universe. You understand?
No.
So,
I got lost.
So, okay. We know that we can jump from one point in one dimension
Yes.
from another point to another
But
dimension
where
by
are
folding
we
it.
now?
Now we are in the 9th dimension.
Which is?
Listen. So, now we jump from one infinite universe, let's say our infinite universe, the 3, okay,
to
another infinite universe. And you can do that because they both exist together, like it did in the previous dimensions. And we have drawn a line between them. This line is a line in the 9th dimension. Alright? So now, if you
but
jump...
that line doesn't represent like time or anything.
That line only represents that it is possible to have a superior dimension that connects infinite universes. Okay?
And those universes being connected means?
Means that there is a superior dimension that connects them. So we haven't finished yet. Okay? Now, let's recap. Okay? So,
I think that I will get like even more tangled if you recap.
We started with the dimension 0, which was 1 point in space.
Yeah.
Okay? The first dimension will take 2 points to draw a line.
Yeah.
In the 4th dimension, we treat the whole 3 dimension as one single point, and then we link to another 3-dimension point with a line. That line is time. Okay? Now, in the 7th dimension, we treated all possible timelines that could be generated from our Big Bang as one single point, meaning infinity, the infinity of our world, not from the avatar world. Okay? Now, we imagine that we can draw a line to a point representing all different timelines to a completely different universe that started because of a different Big Bang. We can call it Big Bang. Okay?
And that's 8.
Now, exactly. So this is how we build the superior dimensions. And now in the 10th dimension, we will imagine all possible branches to all the possible timelines of all the possible universes as one single point. Will be like a super infinity. Okay? Will be like the Megatron infinity. Okay? So, in the 10th dimension...
I think that my head is now just about to blow up.
In the 10th dimension, we have in one single point all the possible universes that could be created from all the possible different Big Bangs, that each universe contains all possible timelines that could be created. Now, if we want to consider all this super infinite existence as one single point,
because
right?
Why not?
Because why not? So then you could link it to another point that contains another infinity, right?
But from where?
Exactly from where? You can't. You cannot go anywhere else. We have finished our trip. We have reached the top level of this building of dimensions. Okay? So, as I said, in the ground level, we started with 1 point. In the middle level, so when we reached the 5th dimension, we were seeing all the possibilities that your life could become. And in the upper floor, like in the highest level, we consider all the infinity of different universes, all the infinite universes that could be created from all the infinite different conditions that could create all infinity of different timelines. And then, since we consider it as a point, we don't have anywhere else to go. Because everything that could exist or ever existed, it's already considered as 1 point, so we cannot go anywhere else. And then we have, therefore, finished our trip. And this is how the 10 dimensions exist in our world. Allegedly. This is also important because all this, I will not say that is theoretical, I will say that is hypothetical. Because there is no proof yet that all this is true. However, if you can imagine it, there must be some truth to it. Alright? So, who's going to say that a Big Bang that started with different conditions could not create a different universe? Alright? Just, it is possible. However, I'm afraid that we are nowhere close to actually prove it, because, as I said, all this would require us to be there to witness it, but this happened so long ago, or it's probably never going to happen again. So we cannot know how to do that. All these conditions can be kind of recreated in the, hadron accelerators and all these particle laboratories that are so cool, that they have like a huge ring where they put particles to, be accelerated at huge speeds, and then they collide together. So we can recreate the different conditions of the Big Bang, and this could be a way to prove it.
I'm so quiet because I cannot relate. So
because you are tangled in the dimensions.
I'm totally in my dimension, like really, like
you are a person of your time.
Yeah, like assuming that all of that is true and that they are going to prove it, and that there will be like a real proof that this is true. I'm afraid I'm going to say that I will not care. I would not care at all.
Who cares?
I mean, like, really, who cares? Because it's not like I can jump to another dimension.
Well, you could if you wanted to.
No, I could not. That's the point, because I'm a person from my dimension. And as you said, you cannot just move up and suddenly be in the 8th dimension. No, you are in the dimension that you are in. If anything, you can take a photo and then you see yourself in the 2nd dimension.
Yeah.
But, like, so why do I care about something that I cannot do, that doesn't influence my life in any way? It's like, oh yeah, different possibilities. We can calculate with maths how many different choices could happen if you decided to, I don't know, do this or that at that point in time. But so what? It's not like it's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, as an engineer, I kind of see the pragmatism of your point of view. But it's also just for the fact of knowing. Like, wouldn't you want to know how the universe works? This would also explain...
I am that kind of person that I don't care.
But like, this would also explain how the subatomic particles were created. Like, where do they come from?
But who cares? You know what I care? I am that kind of person who... like...
Who cares?
So many people get so excited about...
We should call this, why should you care?
People care so much about the... going to space and space travel and astronauts and shit like that, and I'm like, yeah, how about NASA? Instead of going to space, you will like try to find cure for cancer.
But that is not the job of NASA.
Exactly, but like, why do we waste so much resources on something that doesn't matter for anyone out here, except for like, I want to be the cool guy and go into space and see the stars. Like, yeah, but like,
it's for the sake of knowing and expanding your knowledge.
That's useless.
It's the curiosity that pushes us further.
Okay, if you want to be an astronaut, don't. Go and be a doctor. Do something with your brain. Like, if you're smart,
astronauts don't have to be
don't
good
go
doctors.
and think about Higgs something.
But
Braxton Higgs? No, that's something else. That's like pregnancy.
Boson of Higgs.
Yeah, like, don't think about that. Don't go and don't waste your time thinking about
particles. Astronauts are mostly engineers, and engineer cannot be a good doctor. I mean, it doesn't have to. Those things, it's not like, oh, you are clever, so for sure you can, instead of being an engineer, you can be a doctor.
Go and be a surgeon, yeah?
No, I don't think so. It doesn't work like that.
Well, I don't know. I like, cool. I could watch that movie. Christopher Nolan, if you're listening. Like, I will go to the cinema, I will buy the ticket, and I will watch it, and after I leave, I will be like, oh, that's really interesting, and that will be it. Like, that will be all the influence.
Well, that's why we are doing a podcast and not an actual documentary, because all this that I explained is like a taste.
Never-ending story.
So yeah, this is just a taste of how this would work.
My taste buds are full of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm going to now go and lay on the couch and have some rest.
Yeah, go drink some water. So I'm afraid this has been all for this week.
I'm kind of glad that it has been all. I'm really glad that there's no 15 dimensions because, I could not be here. I would explode into another dimension.
Lucky for you, you are just, living in the third dimension and you will stay here for your whole life. So, no problem.
I enjoy it.
But for the rest of us who wants to, still learn some stuff and so on, you can follow us on Instagram
at sci.why.podcast.
Super. Yeah, I
Very
recommend it.
interesting.
And, give a like if you like. Share it with a friend because sharing is caring. And we will see you next week.
Yes, we will. Dzięki pa.
I dzięki pa.